Hello, wonderful audience. Thank you for choosing to spend your time with me. Welcome, everyone, to our latest video where we'll be exploring Mount Moriah Cemetery, Philadelphia. Mount Moriah Cemetery is a historic rural cemetery that spans the border between Southwest Philadelphia and Yeadon, Pennsylvania. It was established in 1855 and is the largest cemetery in Pennsylvania. It is 200 acres in size and contains 150,000 burials. It differed from Philadelphia's other rural cemeteries such as Laurel Hill Cemetery and the Woodlands Cemetery in that it was easily accessible by streetcar, allowed burials of African Americans, Jews and Muslims, and catered to a more middle-class clientele. The cemetery is a part of the United States National Cemetery System dating back to the American Civil War. It contains 2 military burial plots that are maintained by the United States Department of Veterans Affairs. The soldiers' lot on the Philadelphia side of the cemetery contains 406 burials and the Naval Plot on the Yeadon side contains 2,400 burials. The cemetery closed its gates in April 2011 and had no owner when the last member of the board of directors died. It became wildly overgrown with vegetation, was a site for illegal dumping, and the buildings, graves and monuments fell into disrepair. A non-profit organization called the Friends of Mount Moriah Cemetery formed to clear overgrown brush, maintain graves, stabilize the crumbling gatehouse, and raise money for a petition to place the cemetery on the National Register of Historic Places. The Orphans Court of Philadelphia granted a second organization, the Mount Moriah Cemetery Preservation Corporation, a receivership in 2014. In the upcoming portion, we'll be dissecting description to gain a comprehensive understanding of its implications. The cemetery originally occupied 54 acres but grew to approximately 200 acres, with some estimates as high as 380 acres, making it the largest cemetery in Pennsylvania. Philadelphia and Yeadon share almost equal shares of the cemetery, with Cobbs Creek separating the two sides. After the construction of Cobbs Creek Parkway, the cemetery is slightly less than 160 acres. A Norman castellated brownstone gatehouse designed by Stephen Decatur Button was built at the entrance on Islington Lane, today known as Kingsessing Avenue. A single gated arch was topped with an imposing statue of Father Time. The statue was purchased, removed from the gate and placed atop the grave of John H. Jones, the former president of the Mount Moriah Cemetery Company. The cemetery contains 2 separate military burial plots dating back to the U.S. Civil War that are maintained by the Department of Veterans Affairs. The Naval Plot on the Yeadon side of the cemetery contains 2,400 graves of sailors who were treated at the Grays Ferry Avenue Naval Hospital. A smaller plot of 406 graves known as the Soldiers' Rest is on the Philadelphia side of the cemetery. Mount Moriah contains veterans of the Revolutionary War through the Vietnam War and 22 Medal of Honor awardees, which may be the highest number of any private cemetery. There is one British Commonwealth War grave of a soldier of the Royal Scots from World War I. One section of the cemetery, known as the Circle of St. John or Mason's Circle, contains the Schneider Monument, a 35-foot high Corinthian column topped by the Masonic square and compasses dedicated to William B. Schneider, the Grand Tyler of Pennsylvania's Central Grand Lodge. The size of the cemetery made it ideal for churches and fraternal organizations that wanted to purchase large plots for their members. The Free and Accepted Masons, Oddfellows, Knights of Pythias, Elks, Actors Order of Friendship and Order of United American Mechanics all purchased large lots in the cemetery. Local private institutions such as the Presbyterian Home for Widows and Single Women and the Seamen's Church Institute were also purchasers of large lots. Get ready for a thought-provoking discussion as we delve into history and its impact on our understanding. Mount Moriah Cemetery was established by an act of the Pennsylvania legislature and incorporated on March 27, 1855. The cemetery was expanded to approximately 380 acres, spanning Cobbs Creek into the borough of Yeadon in adjacent Delaware County, making it the largest cemetery in Pennsylvania. In 1856, the remains of Betsy Ross and her third husband John Claypool were moved from the Free Quaker burying ground in Philadelphia to Mount Moriah. The practice of cemeteries purchasing the remains of famous historical individuals was common in order to drive additional business. The Daughters of the American Revolution erected a flagpole at the site of her grave in her memory. Mount Moriah is a part of the United States National Cemetery System. In 1864, the United States federal government purchased 2 parcels of land within Mount Moriah Cemetery. The soldiers' lot on the Philadelphia side of the cemetery was purchased for soldiers who died at local military hospitals and contains 404 Union Army soldiers. The lot initially included the remains of 6 Confederate soldiers. However, in 1885 all but 2 were reinterred at Philadelphia National Cemetery. The Naval Plot on the Yeadon side of the cemetery is 10 acres in size and was purchased for the reinterment of bodies previously buried at the U.S. Naval Home. The Naval Plot today contains 2,400 U.S. Navy officers and seamen. In the early years, Henry Jones, an affluent African-American man who worked as a caterer, purchased a lot for burial in Mount Moriah Cemetery. After his death in 1875, his funeral procession was blocked from entering the cemetery by white lot owners and cemetery authorities who refused to bury him because of his race. A lawsuit was filed against the Mount Moriah Cemetery Association, and in 1876 the Pennsylvania Supreme Court ruled that Jones had the right to be buried in the cemetery. During the court case, his body was stored at a funeral vault at Lebanon Cemetery in Philadelphia. Jones' family had decided to bury him at Lebanon Cemetery, but he may have been buried at the Church of St. James the Less Cemetery in Philadelphia instead. In the years, the Works Progress Administration program performed work at Mount Moriah Cemetery to improve the drainage system throughout the cemetery. In 1970, a 700-pound, 7-foot-2-inch-high bronze statue of a Civil War soldier was removed from its base and stolen by thieves. The statue was named the Silent Sentry, cast at the Bureau Brothers Foundry and dedicated in 1883. It was originally placed in the Soldiers' Home of Philadelphia burial plot. The thieves attempted to sell the statue for scrap metal to Camden, New Jersey scrapyard, but the scrap dealer notified the authorities. It was recovered and repaired by the Military Order of the Loyal Legion of the United States. In 2013, the statue was relocated and rededicated in Laurel Hill Cemetery. In December 1975, Betsy Ross's descendants petitioned to have her remains moved to the Betsy Ross House. The headstone at her grave had been stolen years before. A physical anthropologist, Dr. Alan Mann, moved some bones in 1976 from the estimated vicinity of her grave but was unable to determine whether they belonged to Ross or not. Horatio Jones, the last known member of the Mount Moriah Cemetery Association, died in 2004, and the cemetery closed its gates in 2011 in a unique legal situation, having no known owner. In 2012, due to complaints and reports of the deteriorating situation, Philadelphia and Yeadon formed the Mount Moriah Cemetery Preservation Corporation, a 7-member board charged with building a redevelopment plan for the cemetery. In 2014, Philadelphia Orphans Court appointed Mount Moriah Cemetery Preservation Corporation as receiver for the long-neglected cemetery. The Friends of Mount Moriah Cemetery, Inc., a non-profit organization, held regular restoration events, and progress was made to return the cemetery to normal condition. Expected annual maintenance costs are about $500,000. In February 2015, the Pennsylvania Historical and Museum Commission announced that the cemetery was eligible to be listed on the National Register of Historic Places, subject to review by the NRHP. The Friends of Mount Moriah Cemetery began a campaign to raise funds to stabilize the crumbling gay house. In January 2019, the Friends of Mount Moriah Cemetery presented their strategic plan to the Philadelphia City Planning Commission to convert Mount Moriah Cemetery into a nature sanctuary similar to the nearby Bartram's Garden and John Hines National Wildlife Refuge. Paulette Roan, the president of the Friends of Mount Moriah Cemetery, died in February 2019. The Friends of Mount Moriah Cemetery have petitioned the Orphans Court to allow her burial to be the first in the cemetery since it closed in 2011. Her efforts on behalf of the cemetery and the community were honored in August 2019 by symbolically renaming the section of King's Essing Avenue in front of the cemetery Paulette Roan Place. As we enter this new chapter, let's navigate the complexities of notable burials and unravel its multifaceted nature. Edwin Adams, stage actor Charles Baker, Medal of Honor recipient Albert Bayer, Medal of Honor recipient Annie Kemp Bowler. 1876, stage actress and singer Augustus Celsius. Buell, fraudulent author Richard Risley Carlisle, gymnast and acrobat George Connell, Mayor of Philadelphia William Cusick Okomickey Duffy, Prohibition-era mobster George Deary, Medal of Honor recipient John Deasley, professional baseball player Pat Deasley, professional baseball player George B. DeVady 1909, president and owner of the Boston Doves National League Baseball Club Israel Wilson Durham, state senator, owner of the Philadelphia Phillies baseball team Jesse Elliott, naval commander in the War of 1812 George Ewell, American professional baseball player. George North. Galloway, Medal of Honor recipient John Galloway D. 1904, Medal of Honor recipient John Celsius. Grady, Pennsylvania State Senator for the 7th District from 1877 to 1903 Bill Greenwood, baseball player Daniel McBride Graham, abolitionist, inventor, first president of Hillsdale College A.O. Granger Arthur Otis Granger, American industrialist and soldier Robert Heller born William Henry Palmer. Magician Robert Jordan, Medal of Honor recipient Joseph Killacky, Medal of Honor recipient Thomas Kitterer, U.S. Representative for Pennsylvania John Laverty, Double Medal of Honor recipient Nicholas Lear, Medal of Honor recipient Art Lowell, professional baseball player Benjamin Loxley, Philadelphia master builder and carpenter architect Thomas G. Lyons, Medal of Honor recipient James Martin, II, Medal of Honor recipient Sylvester H. Martin, Medal of Honor recipient William McCandless, Civil War Union Army officer Matthew McClelland, Medal of Honor recipient John Edward McCullough, Shakespearean tragic actor Samuel Miles, French and Indian War officer, Revolutionary War officer, Philadelphia civic activist, first troop captain, mayor, and nation's first faithless elector, presidential election, 1796. John Jocko Milligan, baseball player Moses Orr, Medal of Honor recipient Michael Owens, Medal of Honor recipient Betsy Ross, Upholsterer credited with making the first American flag Henry Schutz, Medal of Honor recipient Joseph Hill Sinix, Pennsylvania State Representative, Civil War Union officer Samuel Sloan, architect John Smith, Medal of Honor recipient William Burns Smith. Mayor of Philadelphia John Murray Spear, spiritualist clergyman Thomas H. Stockton Chaplain of the United States House of Representatives August P. Titand, Medal of Honor recipient William Thompson D. 1872, Medal of Honor recipient Alexander H. Trout, Medal of Honor recipient John Whitehead, singer, songwriter John Williams, Medal of Honor recipient Francis A. Wilson, Medal of Honor recipient Robert East. Winslow, Civil War Union Army officer John Russell Young, journalist, diplomat, and Librarian of Congress. Have any questions or topics you'd like me to cover in future videos? Let me know in the comments.